not really changed very much from the pre-crisis era to the post-crisis era is not really so accurate. He has changed quite a lot. The origin may be very similar, but even elements of the origin have changed greatly over the decades, and certainly the characters in Batman's world have changed significantly from pre-crisis to post-crisis. So I really do hope that you enjoyed listening to my review and analysis of the Untold Legend of the Batman as much as I have enjoyed putting it together. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I'm going to be giving words of thanks to various individuals or organizations who have been very important to me throughout the years. I know that people may not care to hear long lists of thank yous. So if you're in that camp and you don't feel like listening to this latter half of this episode, I'll say for you, class is dismissed, and episode 101 will come back in a couple of weeks with a look at the post-crisis Lex Luthor as he was interpreted and presented during the years 1986 to 1996. But for those of you who want to stick around for the last 10 minutes or so, consider this class in recess. All right, recess is over. We're back in class for the words of thanks. And like a lot of other people who are doing this, I do live in fear that I may be leaving out some important names. If I have done so, please do feel free to email me at comicsandhistory@gmail.com, and you can tell me to slap myself upside the head and say, how could I leave that person out of this? My apologies in advance, because I really don't want to overlook anybody who has played an important role in where I've gotten to at this point with this show. Like Sean Whalen, host or co-host of Raging Bullets, I do want to start off by thanking all of my listeners. Whether you are somebody who has started listening recently and decided to stay on board, or you are somebody who has been listening from day one, whether you are somebody who has written in to the show via email or via Facebook, whether you have not written in, whether you have simply been a silent listener enjoying the show, if you have liked and shared these episodes that I've recorded. By sharing, I mean sharing them on social media such as Facebook. To all of you, thank you, thank you, thank you. If it wasn't for you, the listeners, this show wouldn't exist. I could just make myself content with talking with myself about all of the topics that I've covered on the show so far. But it's because there are those of you out there who take time out of your day to listen to me talk about comics from today and yesteryear. I thank you so much. I'm touched by that. The fact that there are people who I have never had the chance to meet in the physical world who do take the time and consider what I have to say. I'm just thinking of a couple of you listeners in particular. I'm thinking of Gary Arkle and Cam Sharp. I remember when Cam sent in a beautiful message to me via Facebook Messenger, please do go back and listen to the postscript to episode number 75 if you have not done so already. But I mean, Cam's words really inspired me, affirmed me in my sense of what my purpose is in life and as a podcaster. Gary's just been really wonderful, sending me compliments here and there. One of the more recent episodes of Comics in History was actually inspired by Gary, where he picked up a copy of Orb magazine, the Canadian periodical from the mid-70s, and he sold it to me at a very good price, and that got me really loving Orb and the character of the Northern Light, who will be getting his own solo title from Chapter House Comics later this year. So to Gary and to Cam, all you listeners out there, thank you. Thank you so very much. It's been a while since I've spoke with these guys, but I do want to send out another word of thanks to DJs Steele and Adrock from the Mano y Mano radio show at Sound FM 100.2. I hope I got that number correct. I just remember they took one of their Tuesday night episodes and they just promoted the heck out of Comics in History. And then on top of that, they invited me on their comics vidcast near the end of the summer a couple of years ago. And it was so wonderful to get to actually talk with them over the phone, over the airwaves. And just their promotion of the show did so much to help me. I know that there are probably a good number of you listening to this episode who found out about me through DJ Steele and Adrock. So guys, wherever you are, I wish you best of luck in all of your endeavors, and I hope that you are doing really, really well. You know, I think about how I started this podcast in 2014, and it didn't quite feel so real at first. I mean, it was all a grand experiment. This came about through a professional development conference I had at my school where we were talking about the potential for podcasting in the classroom. And so I went home and found the Spreaker podcasting app with the intention of testing it out before bringing it into my classroom. And I have brought Spreaker into my classroom. I do use it from time to time with my students, but in experimenting with it, that's what led to me creating this show. And at first I thought, yeah, how many listeners am I going to get? Is it going to really work out? As I saw listeners coming aboard, you know, it certainly felt real to me. And I knew that I was really making it as a podcaster when I started getting in contact with actual comics creators. I'm thinking of two in particular. I'm thinking of Mr. Dean Stahl, who has written the excellent comic Headlocks and Headaches, and Mr. Alan White, the creator of the Power Principle. Both guys are just really, really wonderful gentlemen, and they've become very good friends to me in real life. And just their dedication to the craft. They're guys who work regular 9-to-5 jobs, or probably longer than that, but they create comic art on top of that. And it's beautiful comic art. And it's just been so wonderful to have their support. And I do intend one day in the future to do a follow-up where I review some of their more current work. But to Mr. Stahl and to Mr. White, my friends, I raise a proverbial glass and toast to you, and thank you. Of course, it's been amazing having the support of Chapter House Comics. A brilliant Canadian comics publisher that is just doing some incredible stuff right now with their shared universe. It's just amazing to see them taking their various properties and putting them all into one shared reality. And the stuff they've got planned for this year is just incredible. It's been my pleasure to review such titles as Captain Canuck, Northgard, Pitiful Human Lizard, Spirit Leaves, Life, Death, and Sorcery. The list goes on. And I really want to thank Tony White from Chapter House Comics, who has been very good about answering any questions I've had about the company's initiatives. He knows that I buy all of their new releases, but he does help me out by sending me digital copies a little bit in advance, just so that I'm able to read them and then do a proper review on the show. And then having those digital copies just helps me as I'm making my notes for this show. So to Tony and Chapter House Comics, thank you guys. I will be a very happy supporter and reader of your books for years to come. Of course, I've also received support from other podcasters. Two in particular I want to thank. I want to thank Mr. Michael Myers and Mr. Chris Ivey from Geek Brunch Retro. They host a variety of podcasts. Mike has been a podcaster for years. Chris for, say, at least the last 3 years. And they've been so supportive of me and the show. They've done so much to help promote the show. I'm sure that a number of you listening to this recording right now found out about Comics in History through Mike and through Chris. Chris, I want to give you a special thanks for all the talks we've had. Chris and I are both solo podcasters. Outside of Geek Brunch Retro, Chris hosts Mythmaking ETC and From Kid to Flash, two excellent podcasts. And it's just so wonderful to have a fellow solo podcaster to talk with and bounce ideas off of. So, Mike and Chris, thank you for your friendship. I want to thank my dad, who was the first to put a comic book in my hand and start me on this journey towards becoming a lover of comic books and an amateur comics historian. I want to thank my wife, who never begrudges my love of comics. There are times where she jokes with me and she says, "Brian, you mean there are people in this world who actually take time to listen to you talk about comics?" But, she never complains. She never tells me that I have to do something about my growing pile of comic books. If anybody else says anything about why is your old man of a husband still reading comic books, she says there are a lot of worse things in the world he could be doing, so back off. So to my wife, I love you more than anything in the world, and I thank you. And then finally, two other people who I love more than anything else in the world. The feature co-host of Comics in History, Victoria, my little girl, who at the tender age of 1.5 years recognizes Wonder Woman on sight. She is the apple of my eye. She is the one who inspires me to get up every morning with a smile on my face. And of course, every episode of Comics in History is dedicated to my late son, Jonathan, a little boy who put up a very brave fight in his short time on this plane of existence, but inspired me to become a much better man, a much better teacher, a much better podcaster, and to continue to live with hope in my heart, so that when his little sister came along, I was ready for her. And folks, I am more than ready for episode 101 of Comics and History, which will come your way in 2 weeks. So until then, this class is dismissed.